Hey everybody, I am so excited about our sponsor for this month, the Experience Live with Russ and Scott. It's the Gillot Home Team and Laura Gillot. How are you doing, Laura?
I'm doing wonderful.
That is so awesome. You know, the Gillot Home Team is doing so much in real estate. Give us a snapshot of what you're up to.
Awesome. Well, last year we were able to help 551 families either buy or sell real estate. We love our community. We love our clients. Our mission is to deliver the keys to home ownership through stellar customer service, integrity, and joy. And we're looking to help even more folks this year.
That is so awesome. You know, if you want a team that is there for you, it's the Gillot Home Team and Laura Gillot. And thanks so much, Laura, for your sponsorship. Hey. Good morning and welcome everybody to the Experience Live with Russ and Scott. We're so excited to be here. We love Wednesday mornings. How's it going, Scott?
Hey, it is great. But I tell you, Laura and her team are probably trying to help people find homes with built-in generators now.
Yes, after what we just went through, I'm sure that's true. I am just glad to have power and Wi-Fi and all that back. Otherwise, I'd be like you in the first show, out of my car somewhere. Picking up Wi-Fi.
Oh man, yeah, with my dome lighting system. Yeah. Oh my word.
Oh, that was so funny. Well, listen, it's so great to be here this morning. We are just so blessed to have great guests every week. And we've got a couple great guests this morning. Paul Edwards and Peter Schmitz are with us this morning. We're so excited to have them here. And do you want to do any more intro before I start bringing them in and we get the thing?
You know, the time goes so fast. I want to just get right to them. But the only thing I want to say is, Russ, I can't believe this is the last episode of the Experience with Russ and Scott for February. The next time we do this, it'll be March.
I can't believe it. I know the time just flies by. It's crazy. So
2021.
Definitely. But you know what? We're going to make it a good one. And with that, we're going to bring Paul Edwards in now and let him just say hi and join the group. Hey, Paul.
Good morning, gentlemen. Great to see you. Thanks so much for having me.
It is so great to have you this morning. You know, we are blessed with a great community with the Global Tea Break that I think all of us here are part of today. And so I'm just thankful that I've had a chance to meet you and get to know you better. We were joking around this morning that you're a ghostwriter, but you're not really a ghost, right?
Well, I can neither confirm nor deny. Let's put it that way. I'm partially
his military background coming through.
Yeah.
Well, listen, why don't you give us a little info on what you're up to these days?
Oh, I'm up to a bunch of great things. It's it's getting even better this year than it was last year, which I know sounds strange to say in the age of COVID-19, but it's the truth. My agency is expanding. My life seems to just be on the up and up. And probably I would say the most current thing that's going on right now is the ongoing work of my book, Influencer Networking Secrets, which is also the name of my podcast. You can see here on the screen behind me. And we are about to launch in local bookstores like Barnes & Noble in certain communities through Morgan James, my publisher. So that's really exciting. And in the meantime, we're just working hard to serve our clients and make sure they have great content done for you in your voice that you can pretty much plug and play straight away and not have to spend hours and hours writing and editing.
Yeah, I think it's like a super valuable service that you have and all that you do. I know that you and Scott have known each other for a while. Scott, have you worked with Paul in the past, working with that service?
Yeah, I actually have not worked with Paul on the writing service, but we did meet because we're both in the same mastermind organization, Iron Sharpens Iron, and so with that, you've got really a global network of folks like Paul, and there's very few of us actually in the Northwest, and so we kind of connected up with each other. We've had a chance to have lunch face to face, even as he says, in this COVID era, and so But I've been
I really
tracking
miss
Paul,
that.
watching his business grow this last year.
Yeah. I really miss that face-to-face thing. I'm looking forward to the time when Paul and I can have lunch or a coffee face-to-face, because as great as this is, you know, it's nice to have just some face-to-face time. But so,
Get that right.
Paul, tell us a little bit more about your book.
Well, it comes from several years of learning the hard lessons of building personal relationships. I wouldn't have considered myself particularly skilled at that when I left the military in my late 20s. And so I didn't have it on my radar really to start a business or anything like that. I just wanted to sort of make a career and hopefully get into broadcasting and radio one day. But it failed miserably, my first attempts, and I found myself moving into the insurance business where I had no connection, no family history, nothing like that, no familiarity with the product. And I quickly figured out people didn't want to talk about insurance. They didn't want to hum and haw it. They didn't want to hear talks about it. They weren't interested in it. And insurance salesmen are caricature, right? Thanks to Ned Ryerson and Groundhog Day and things like that. So I quickly figured out, well, I need to have something to talk about if I'm ever going to get anywhere with this. And it became much more about building relational capital, giving value up front without asking for anything in return, looking out for the other person, creating opportunities, introducing people. And from that, I discovered this tremendous pull, this influential pull that I created with people where I didn't have to go out and hunt for leads or, you know, spend thousands of dollars on advertising or anything like that. They came to me. I would sit there in my office and wait for my phone to ring, and it actually would ring. And so anyway, it kept getting better and better at this, and I kept getting into more and more interesting opportunities as a result. And I realized there's something to this. This isn't just a coincidence, and it's not just because of the way I part my hair. I'm doing something here, and I need to figure out what that is and write it out, and so I can share it with other people. So that's where the book came from originally.
And Paul, I know that I think it's Bob Berg that has the Go Giver, but you also have a term that I think is quite captivating in terms of network and connection.
Yes, I'm probably not the first person to say this, but if you ask me, I think it's actually a portmanteau, a combination of things, because I've heard about people describing radical generosity being, and I quickly put that next to the word entrepreneur. I said my personal avatar, my aspirational avatar, is the radically generous entrepreneur. Somebody who. Yeah, it's somebody who is both very successful at what they do, but also everyone around them grows and elevates and becomes better as a result.
I love it.
Yeah, that is great. And speaking of radically successful, I think we're going to bring in our next guest. Peter Schmitz is going to join the crew. Here we go. We're going to let Peter come in here as soon as I click the right button. There we go. There's Peter.
That's good, Russ. Radically successful. I appreciate that. I'm not quite sure that's 100% accurate yet, but it will be. It will be. So you're funny.
That is a great attitude. Great attitude. I appreciate that. So, hey, listen, tell us a little bit about you and what you're up to these days, Peter.
Well, I'm a business consultant, which is an overused term, but basically I help business owners find hidden profits. And I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. But I'm also an author and I'm a triathlete. I wrote a book. I don't know if you can see this. One Inspires Many. My friend Scott there has read my book. But quick story is I lost my arm when I was 16 in a meat grinder. And I was at the time the best swimmer on the swim team. And my coach comes to see me in the hospital and he says, I was the best breaststroker on the team. I wasn't the best swimmer. And he says, I looked up at him from my bed. I said, I guess I won't be swimming anymore. And he said, yes, you will. I'll see you in the fall. And then when you're 16 years old, you don't usually argue with your coach. So I showed up and I was on the varsity team. So I was swimming with the best and I couldn't keep up with 1.5 arms. So I bumped me down to junior, to sub, and to reserve. And now I'm swimming with kids 8, 9 years old. And I actually got swimming paddle with his help and his design. And I worked my way back to 2 years later. I swam in the National YMCA swim meet, 100-yard breaststroke. I didn't win, but I swam in it. And it's funny because if you know anything about swimming and competitive, you have to touch with 2 hands. And when I touched, I had 1 hand in a paddle. They disqualified me. And so it was really, my coach had to go explain to him that I didn't have 2 hands. And back then that was not very common. Today it's a lot more common. I race triathlons with a group called Dare to Try. They're all disabled athletes. And so it's some very inspirational guys. And that's what prompted the book is. One inspires many is actually if you can see that, is actually the tagline for Dare to Try, the triathlon organization that teaches people with disabilities how to do triathlons. And so that's what I'm up to. And I want to tell you a quick story because how I met Scott was actually on a business adventure with a company called Cord Buddy and Travis. And you asked me what I did, Russ, so I'll tell you this quick story because this explains what I do best. Do I have a couple of minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, because I met Travis online and we chatted for a few minutes about his business and what struggles he was having. And we did a discovery call where we took a deep dive into his online sales process. And in that call, I learned that he was taking his Facebook ads and running them to his website. And on his website, he was converting at the rate of 0.8 to 1%, which is on a website respectable, but there's ways to do a lot better with that. So I say to these guys after an hour and a half of talking, I know 100% I can help you guys. And so basically, long story short, we did a landing page, which many of your listeners will know what it is, and the results were 56% better. And so that's what I do is I help business owners find those hidden profits that they don't know they're there. They're basically a gap in their sales process. And then we plug the gap with a tool that, I didn't invent the tools. They're pretty common tools, but many business owners, many entrepreneurs just aren't aware of everything that's available to them. And so that's my job. That's what I do. And I love to do it. And that's how I get to meet guys like Scott.
And that was a fun project. And of course, it's great when you have success at the end. Really changed from what the beginning of 2020 looked like to the end of 2021. For Cord Buddy, sales were significantly different. And also, and I read your book. Yeah, your story is inspiring. The people that you focus on, some of the Dare to Try athletes, have really inspiring stories. And it's interesting because you also used a ghostwriter to help put together your story. And Paul's a ghostwriter, so
that's right.
Who would have thought? Here we are on
a wise decision.
Well, Paul, you know this better than, and when I started out on writing my story, it's very challenging, and I would tell you it's arduous to write your personal story. And when I finally got to the point of hiring it was a woman from Florida. I said, I want to tell this as a story, because when you try to tell it yourself, right, it's just a bunch of unrelated snippets of my life. And so crafting it into a story that a guy like Scott could actually read and enjoy, that's a task I did not know how to do. So guys like you, and in this case, a woman, very, very helpful in process. So I'm glad to meet you, Paul.
It's the simple, goes back to the simple rules of creativity. Creativity is always much better when there's more than one human being involved.
Good point.
Right. That's one thing that I have really, really enjoyed about the whole online thing this last year. A real benefit that came out of COVID is the collaboration and the community that's grown, and everybody reaching out, because everybody had to. Everybody was in the same boat. Didn't matter where we were. We just had our friend Jason Cooper who's watching. He's over in Dublin, Ireland. Didn't matter what part of the world that you're in, people come together and you learn so much more about people. And then you're able to work together and really do incredible things.
Yeah,
for sure.
Communities come together over a common interest or a shared hardship. And when COVID came and we went into this worldwide lockdown during with this pandemic, first time in human history, we all have one common thing that binds us together, a common issue of this whole COVID thing. And so it's it's as tough as it's been. There's a lot of beauty that's happened out of the connections that we've had.
Yeah.
So Scott, you'll like this. I just was listening to a podcast by a guy, but anyway, one of his questions he said was, "Tell me something about yourself that I won't read on your LinkedIn profile." and then you share one of your stories, right? And so I've just started using that because, right, there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't fit on all of our profiles out there. And so, but we all have many colorful stories like Paul's talking about. And so I'm going to see how that works to get to know some people.
So maybe we can talk the folks into LinkedIn to add 2 truths and a lie.
There you go.
Into your profile.
Well, hey, this morning I want to back up just a little bit because Paul, you mentioned that you were in the military, and first of all, I want to thank you for that. How many years were you in the military?
I did 5.5 years on active duty, and then finished out my obligation with 2 years in the reserves for the Army. And
did you specialize in anything while you were in the military?
Well, my official job for the active duty time was transportation. I was actually a trucker. When I went into the reserves, I decided to try my hand at public affairs, which was the communication side of it, which was much more in alignment with my natural strengths and all that. But it's funny you asked that because the thing about the Army that I observed is you become proficient at so many different tasks. Many of them are quite menial, but the things that I took away from it more than any particular skill set, the things that have lasted with me to this day have been this relentless drive to complete the mission. Almost flying in the face many times of things that, you would say, well, that's game over. And the Army mindset is, oh no, it isn't. Right. And so it's instilled in me this ability to go a long, long way on something that I'm passionate or committed to, despite tons of obstacles that crop up in the way.
Well, I think resiliency and the ability to there's so many great things we can do if we just step forward and do it. And if we stick with it and if we're consistent, like you talked about, and, you look at Peter and his story, how encouraging that is, even in the midst of losing part of your limb, you're still moving forward and doing incredible things. I mean, both of you are truly inspiring. I call myself an inspiration specialist, but I am inspired this morning by both of you.
No, thanks.
Thank you.
You bet. So Peter, well, I had another question for you. I was wondering, so your swimming, is that what led you into doing the triathlon work, or how did that go?
Well, that's a really good question because it actually was part of it for sure. But I did my first triathlon, Russ, at age 62, and I had a chiropractor that was an Ironman crazy guy, and he kept bugging me to do it. And he said, "You're a swimmer." He said, "That's the hardest part for anybody. Most of the triathlete guys can't swim, so you'll have it easy." And I didn't have I had a road bike or had a mountain bike, and I had just regular tennis shoes. And he said, "Yeah, let's go do this one." So after a lot of badgering, I finally said, "Okay." There 3 of us went to Galena, Illinois, and I did my first triathlon. If you know anything about Galena, it's mountainous, it's hilly terrain. There's actually ski resorts in that area. It took me 4.5 hours to do my first triathlon. That was about a 2-hour race. And I could give you all the details, but I couldn't ride my bike up the hills. The first mile I had to walk, and I was the absolute last person on the course. The only 2 people at the end were my friends waiting for me. So that was my first race. And Paul, you talk about, just finishing the race, and there's no way I was going to quit because that's my personality. And so I finished, but my second race was in my hometown of Wakanda, and at 6 o'clock in the morning, there's all these people in the corner that are disabled. And I go over, and it's only my second race ever, and I finally got a good bike, but I went and I said, "What are you guys doing?" And they said, "We're Dare to Try, and we help disabled people race." And she's the woman in charge. Her name was Carrie. She said, "You want to race with us?" And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great," because they get to go first. You don't have to run through the herd to get in the water and get trampled, because that's what happened the first time. That's a hard way to start a race. But anyway, we get down to the beach, Russ, and you start in the water. So I walk into the water up to my waist, and I look around and there's nobody. And I turn around and they're being carried into the water because they can't walk. And it blew me away. I was like, you talk about inspired. I'm racing with people that can't walk.
Wow.
And so that was my first experience with Dare to Try, and my second race ever, and I got hooked. And I'm going to tell you, don't do a triathlon because they're very addicting. And I learned a lot. I learned how to race, and 6 years later, I actually won my age group, 65 plus, in the Chicago Triathlon.
Peter, I was going to say, Peter, your story of your first triathlon reminds me of the 1968 marathon in Mexico City.
Okay.
And the athlete that finished very last was John Stephen Aquari, and he was from Tanzania.
Okay.
And the race is over. People are leaving. It's dark. His leg is bandaged. He's hobbling into the stadium. And there's a great video. You can find this. But at the very end, they asked him, why did you do this? I mean, the race is over. You're dead last. People are leaving. It's dark. You can barely move. And he said, my country sent me to finish the race, not start it.
Mm.
Yeah, that is
so. Scott, I want to share with you, and you read this in my book, because I interviewed guys. So what you don't know is I interviewed 6 or 7 other disabled racers, because in the world of handicaps, I'm not that handicapped. I'm just missing a hand. When somebody's blind or they can't walk, they're in a wheelchair, and they're out there doing a race like this, it's remarkable. It's Russ, you would find these guys very inspiring. But I asked all of these guys that I interviewed this question: why do you do it? What do you get out of it? And after it's like the guy that you just talked about, Scott, is after you get done with, well, I want to win, and I like this and I like that. I want people to say, way to go. They're doing it to prove to themselves that they're still a whole person.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. If you listen to there's a video in the comment when they're talking about John Stephen Aquari, and he says that it just proves what people are capable of, but that it elevated the sport from just men playing at games to a proof of what the human spirit is capable of.
Yeah, and
that's what I read in your book, is the same comments.
Yeah, you read those stories, and there's some incredible men and women that have raced, and several of the, I know 2 of the people that won in Rio in the Olympics that I've raced with them, Melissa Stockwell, and I'm trying to think of the other girls, Haley Dance. I've raced with both of them. Wow. So yeah, it's and remarkable. Anyway, we could talk about this the whole show, Russ.
I want to tell you what I think is so incredible. I have a pastor who does Ironman, and I always call him the crazy man. Yeah. And I thought he was a crazy man until I meet people like you. I meet people like Michael Bryant, a friend of mine out of the East Coast, that Michael is about to do his 7th Ironman at 77. And then I realized that, maybe I could do something like that, because people that are way less, people that are able to do this at all ages. I mean, I always thought I was too old, unable to do those kind of things, that kind of stuff. So it's amazing.
Russ, it gets down to this, and people can do anything they put their mind to, whether it's a triathlon, jumping out of an airplane, scuba dive, anything you want. If you put your mind to it, regardless of your circumstances, you've seen enough people overcome those circumstances. So it's possible. And the human spirit, like you said, Scott, is remarkable.
And this is what I like about your story. And you, as you said, you chose to write your personal story, which is very challenging. Paul, you've worked with a lot of different folks writing. And this is what I think is that most people believe that they have like a plain vanilla, boring life. But once you start looking into those stories, and Paul, I'm interested to hear people actually have pretty interesting stories.
C.S. Lewis was the one who said that you have never talked to a mere mortal, right?
Wow.
And I think part of what he meant by it was because of the way we're encouraged by society and culture to look at each other, we lose sight of everything that's invisible about the human beings around us. But the wealth and the success and the impact that we desire is to be found there, right? It's to be found there because everybody, if you know how to ask them, can tell you what's been happening in the last couple of weeks, what's really going on for them right in the moment, and also some things that are in the near future that they're planning on or looking forward to. And if you know how to ask them questions that tap into that, I go back to Rudyard Kipling, the yours is the world and everything in it that's in it, because nobody asks them that kind of question, right?
Right. Well, I think that people are truly inspiring when they put their mind to something. Like you said, it's amazing what we can accomplish. We're all blessed by God to do amazing things. And believe it or not, guys, our time is actually winding up. So I want to give you each a chance to let people know how they would get in touch with you. And Peter, let's start with you. How do people get in touch with you and buy your book?
They can reach me right there on the screen. Peter@schmitzinc.com is probably the easiest way. That's my personal email, and I'll make it simple.
Awesome. Okay. And Paul?
My website is thepaulsedwards.com. So THE Paul S as in Simon Edwards.com.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much, guys. I mean, I can't even tell you how much I appreciate you being on today and how inspired I am. I'm ready to go take on the world now. Off I go after this. So anyway, I just want to remind everybody that we will be on Clubhouse at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time right after this for an after party and continuing the discussion. And of course, Peter and Paul, you are both invited. And that sounded really biblical, Peter. But anyway, that we'll be on Clubhouse. And so I'd love to have you there. If you guys, know people that miss the show, have them jump in, because we would love to have people jump in and be part of that. Let's see here. We've got, Alan is still here. Alan, we appreciate you so much. Alan really was a huge help. Not only does he work with Scott on the Global Tea Break, but he helped Scott and I really get rolling on the live.
Mm-hmm.
So we appreciate you, Alan, so much. So hope to see Alan on the show after. And so, be on that. Remember, every Wednesday, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we are here with The Experience, live with Russ and Scott. And we love to have you guys in. So we're going to say goodbye, Peter. Paul, you guys hang out just a minute. We're going to send you to the green room. We'll be there in just a minute. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Wow.
Right? That was
another great experience.
That was amazing. I mean, amazing. All of our guests are wonderful, but just those stories, I am ready to take on the world. That has energized me even more. And you know me, I don't need a lot of help getting energy. So,
well, that's the truth. It is inspiring when you see these stories like Peter and how he's overcome but also his perspective with the other athletes that he's competed with.
Oh my goodness. I mean, when you have to be carried into the water, wow, that gives me no excuse at all. So, well, listen, it's been wonderful. Wonderful again. Scott, you are such a great friend, always happy and glad we get to do this every Wednesday, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we just want you to share the word. This is going to be this rests on the platforms we're on. And so you can watch on replay. If you watch this on replay, please put #replay and share it with your friends. Let people know that we're on every Wednesday, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We have incredible, amazing, inspiring guests.
Every week.
And with that, we're out. So you guys have a great one. We'll see you on Clubhouse.
Enjoy your experience.
Okay, bye-bye.